The morning sunlight streamed softly through the tall windows of the old courthouse, casting long shadows across the polished wooden benches. It was a quiet day in courtroom 3B, at least on the surface. The air was thick with tension, though no one spoke openly about it. Lawyers shuffled papers nervously, the judge reviewed files with a furrowed brow, and the jury sat in silent anticipation. Among the adults, only one figure seemed out of place. A tiny girl with wide, curious eyes sat quietly beside her mother, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. Lily was just 3 years old, far too young to understand the complex legal battle unfolding around her. To her, this courtroom was a strange, echoing room filled with serious faces and whispered conversations. Her world was far simpler: her mother's warm hand, the soft plush toy, and the faint hum of voices. Lily's mother, Sarah, was testifying in a difficult custody dispute. Her voice trembled as she recounted recent events, her eyes occasionally flicking toward the babysitter seated across the room. The woman had been entrusted with Lily's care during Sarah's long work hours. But something about her had always unsettled Sarah, a silent suspicion she had buried deep inside. Officer Daniels sat nearby, his posture relaxed but watchful. At his side was Titan, a large police dog with a sleek black coat and alert amber eyes. Titan wasn't just any dog. He was specially trained to sense danger and detect hidden emotions. The courtroom staff respected him as much as any human officer, but today, no one expected him to play a role in the unfolding drama. As Sarah spoke, Lily shifted in her seat, her gaze suddenly locking on Titan. The dog, calm and composed, slowly turned his head toward her. For a moment, the two shared a quiet connection, a silent understanding passing between them. Then, without warning, Lily stood up. The courtroom's murmur quieted instantly as all eyes turned to the small child. She took a hesitant step forward, clutching her rabbit tightly, and pointed her tiny finger at Titan. "Bad man," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. A ripple of surprise ran through the room. The judge blinked, momentarily stunned. Sarah gasped softly, her heart pounding. Even Officer Daniels froze, caught off guard by the child's words. "Did you say something, Lily?" the judge asked gently. "Bad man," Lily repeated, her eyes wide and serious. She pointed again, this time directly at Titan. The dog's ears twitched and his body stiffened, his tail still but rigid. Officer Daniels watched closely, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. Titan's reaction was unusual. It was the kind of alertness he displayed only when sensing a real threat. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence. What could a 3-year-old possibly mean by bad man, especially when she was pointing at a police dog? Was it just a child's imagination, or was there something more beneath the surface? The judge called for a brief recess, his voice calm but firm. "Let's take a moment, please." As people began to stir, Sarah knelt down beside Lily, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. The little girl looked up at her mother, eyes shining with a mixture of fear and determination. Officer Daniel stayed by Titan's side, his mind racing. He knew his dog's instincts were rarely wrong. If Titan was reacting like this, it meant someone in the courtroom was hiding something dangerous. Outside the courtroom, the babysitter shifted uneasily in her seat. Her eyes darted to the exit door, and her fingers trembled slightly. For the first time that day, the carefully maintained calm cracked, revealing a glimpse of the truth beneath the surface. Inside the courtroom, no one yet realized that this small moment, a toddler's 2 words, and a dog's silent warning, would change everything. The mystery was just beginning, and what followed would stun everyone present. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Lily's simple phrase, "bad man," hung in the air like a fragile thread, trembling between disbelief and dawning realization. It was almost impossible to imagine that a 3-year-old, barely able to form complete sentences, had just pointed out something so serious. Yet the weight of those 2 words was undeniable. The judge, a man known for his calm demeanor, leaned forward in his chair, his eyes fixed on the child. "Lily, can you tell us who the bad man is?" he asked gently, hoping to coax a clearer answer without frightening her. Lily's small hand trembled slightly as she pointed again, not at Titan, the dog, but across the room where the babysitter sat perfectly still. The woman's face, pale and composed just moments before, now showed the faintest flicker of unease. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and her eyes darted to the courtroom door, as if contemplating an escape. Officer Daniels noticed the subtle shift immediately. Titan's body tensed, the muscles rippling beneath his black fur. The dog's nostrils flared as he sniffed the air, a low growl vibrating in his throat. This was no ordinary reaction. Titan was trained to detect scents that humans couldn't: fear, danger, even lies. "Stay calm, everyone," Officer Daniels said quietly but firmly, standing up slowly so as not to alarm the child. "Let's not jump to conclusions." But the room was already thick with tension. The jury exchanged uneasy glances. Sarah, Lily's mother, felt her heart hammering painfully in her chest. For months, she had ignored the nagging fear that something was wrong. Now it was staring her in the face, undeniable and terrifying. The prosecutor rose, sensing the moment was critical. "Your Honor, I request that we allow a child psychologist to speak with Lily immediately. We need to understand what she means by bad man. This could be essential to the case." The judge nodded, appreciating the prosecutor's tact. "Very well. Court is adjourned for a brief recess. We will resume shortly." As the courtroom emptied, Lily remained seated, clutching her rabbit tightly. Officer Daniels approached her gently, crouching to meet her eyes. "Hey, Lily, that was very brave of you to speak up. Can you tell me more about the bad man?" Livy looked up at him with a seriousness that seemed beyond her years. She whispered, "He hurts me." Those words hit Daniels harder than any growl or bark. The innocent voice of a child revealing pain was the kind of thing that no one could ignore. Nearby, the babysitter's composure cracked for a moment. Her fingers twisted the hem of her skirt, and she avoided all eye contact. It was a silent confession in itself. Sarah moved closer to Lily, wrapping her arms protectively around her. "Sweetheart, we're going to make sure you're safe," she whispered, fighting back tears. Officer Daniels exchanged a quick glance with the judge and prosecutor. This case had suddenly taken a sharp turn, one that no one had anticipated. The presence of Titan, the police dog, who had been calmly observing until now, had unknowingly become a silent witness to the truth. Outside the courtroom, a small group of reporters gathered, waiting for news. Whispers of the unusual moment spread quickly, how a toddler's innocent words and a dog's reaction had interrupted a serious legal battle. Some doubted the significance, while others sensed that something extraordinary was unfolding. Inside, the child psychologist arrived quietly, a warm smile softening her professional demeanor. She knelt beside Lily and spoke in soothing tones. "Can you tell me what you mean when you say bad man? Did someone hurt you?" Lily nodded, her tiny face scrunching with pain. "He hurts me when mommy's not home." The psychologist looked toward the babysitter, who was now visibly trembling, her eyes wide with panic. The room was silent again, but this time it was a silence filled with understanding and dread. What had been hidden behind polite smiles and careful lies was now exposed by the courage of a 3-year-old and the instincts of a police dog. And the consequences of this revelation were about to change many lives forever. The courtroom was no longer just a place of legal proceedings. It had become a stage where hidden truths began to unravel thread by delicate thread. All eyes were fixed on Lily, the tiny girl whose courage had cracked open a secret no one dared speak aloud. The babysitter, whose name was Claire, sat rigidly in her chair. Her usual calm veneer had vanished, replaced by a nervous energy that made her fingers fidget and her eyes shift constantly. Every now and then, she cast quick, anxious glances toward the exit door, as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. Officer Daniels noticed it immediately. The subtle signs, the twitch in her knee, the way her breath quickened ever so slightly, were signals his years of experience had taught him to read well. But more than that, Titan was reacting. The large black dog remained alert at his side, ears perked, muscles taut like a coiled spring. His gaze was locked on Claire, unblinking, unwavering. Titan wasn't just any police dog. He had undergone rigorous training not only to detect drugs and explosives, but to sense human emotions, fear, anxiety, aggression through scent and body language. What he was sensing now was a dangerous mix: guilt, panic, and something darker beneath the surface. The judge cleared his throat, regaining control of the courtroom's fragile calm. "Ms. Claire, I am ordering you to remain here until further notice," he said firmly. "This court will not tolerate any attempts to avoid questioning." Claire's face paled. She opened her mouth, then closed it, words failing her. Slowly she nodded, resigning herself to the moment she had hoped to avoid. Officer Daniels rose and addressed the court. "Given the circumstances and the reaction from Titan, I recommend a thorough investigation into these allegations immediately. We will also conduct a medical exam of the child as soon as possible." Murmurs swept through the courtroom. The news reporters present began scribbling furiously in their notebooks, sensing a story far bigger than a custody battle. The judge called a recess to allow the investigation to begin. Sarah knelt beside Lily, her voice trembling. "Sweetheart, you're very brave. Mommy's going to protect you, I promise." Lily clung to her mother's hand tightly, her small face serious but comforted by her mother's presence. Outside the courtroom, Officer Daniels approached Claire under the watchful eyes of other officers. He spoke quietly but firmly. "Claire, we need you to cooperate fully. If there's nothing to hide, then tell us what happened." Claire's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, it seemed she might confess. Instead, she shook her head and whispered, "I didn't mean to. It just happened." Inside, the child psychologist sat beside Lily, carefully drawing her out with gentle questions and comforting words. The little girl's memories were fragmented, but one thing was clear: someone she trusted had heard her when her mother wasn't around. The medical team arrived soon after and performed a discreet examination, confirming what the psychologist feared. Lily had suffered abuse. Bruises, some healing and some fresh, told a story of pain that no child should endure. Back in the courtroom, the tension was palpable. The jury members exchanged uneasy looks, and Sarah fought back tears. She had hired Claire because she believed her to be kind and responsible. The betrayal cut deeper than anyone imagined. Officer Daniels stood beside Titan, who remained calm but watchful. He knew the dog's instincts had saved Lily from further harm. If not for Titan's silent warning and Lily's brave words, the abuse might have continued unnoticed. As the judge prepared to reconvene the court, he addressed the room with a measured tone. "This case has taken an unexpected turn. The safety of this child is paramount. We will hear more evidence soon." News of the courtroom drama spread quickly outside. Reporters gathered in clusters, whispers growing into headlines. A toddler's innocent words and a police dog's keen senses had exposed a horrifying secret, and now the wheels of justice were turning. For Sarah, the road ahead was daunting, but there was a flicker of hope. Lily's voice had broken the silence, and with Titan by their side, she would no longer be alone. The courtroom had emptied for a brief recess, but the echoes of Lily's two simple words, "bad man," lingered like a heavy fog. The adults moved with a mix of anxiety and determination, knowing that beneath those words lay a story far darker than anyone had expected. Inside a quiet, softly lit room just off the courthouse, a child psychologist named Dr. Emily Carter knelt down to meet Lily at eye level. Her voice was calm and soothing, carefully chosen to comfort rather than intimidate. "Lily," Dr. Carter said gently, "can you tell me more about the bad man? Who is he?" Lily's big eyes filled with a mixture of fear and trust. She clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter, her small fingers curling around the soft fur, as if seeking courage. After a moment of silence, she whispered, He hurts me." Dr. Carter's heart tightened, but she kept her expression warm and inviting. "Can you tell me where he hurts you, sweetheart?" Lily hesitated, then pointed to her arms and legs, places hidden beneath her clothes. "Here," she said quietly. The psychologist nodded slowly, understanding the depth of what the child was sharing. It's very brave of you to tell me this. We're going to help you stay safe. Lily's mother, Sarah, stood nearby, tears threatening to spill. She felt a crushing mix of guilt and relief. Guilt for not seeing the signs sooner, and relief that her daughter had found a way to speak up. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, Officer Daniels and the prosecutor were piecing together the new direction the case was taking. The babysitter, Claire, had been detained for questioning, her nervous glances and shaky answers painting a disturbing picture. Officer Daniels, the prosecutor said quietly, Titan's reaction was more than just instinct. That dog can read emotions and sense that most people can't. If Titan sensed danger, it adds serious weight to Lily's statements. Daniels nodded. That dog saved that little girl. Without him, we might never have uncovered this. The judge, hearing all this, ordered that a full investigation be launched immediately. We owe it to the child to ensure her safety and get to the truth, he declared. As the day wore on, Dr. Carter continued her work with Lily, using gentle, age-appropriate techniques to help the child feel safe enough to share her story. It wasn't easy. Memories for a 3-year-old are often fragmented, and fear could silence her at any moment. But Lily showed surprising resilience. Outside, news crews were waiting for updates, their cameras focused on the courthouse steps. The story of a toddler who had bravely spoken up and a police dog who had silently alerted the authorities was spreading rapidly. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest voices can carry the loudest truths. Inside the courthouse, Sarah sat in the courtroom again, holding Lily close. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I should have protected you." Lily looked up, her innocent eyes meeting her mother's. "Mommy, I'm scared." And in that moment, Sarah vowed to fight harder than ever to keep her daughter safe. Officer Daniels approached Sarah quietly. "We're going to do everything we can," he assured her. "Titan and I will be with you both every step of the way." The bond between child, mother, and protector was already forming, built on courage, trust, and the promise of safety. The case that had started as a routine custody hearing was now a heart-wrenching battle against abuse and betrayal. But with each gentle question and each brave word from Lily, the courtroom was moving closer to justice. After the courtroom's recess, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The once routine custody dispute was now a serious investigation into child abuse, and all eyes were on Claire, the babysitter. The weight of suspicion hung heavily in the air, palpable and suffocating. Officer Daniels escorted Claire into a small interrogation room just off the courthouse. The walls were bare, the fluorescent lights harsh. Claire sat nervously, her hands trembling as she avoided Daniels' steady gaze. "Claire," Daniels began, his voice calm but firm, "we know about the injuries on Lily, and we have your reactions in court. It's time to be honest. Tell us what happened when you were looking after her." Claire swallowed hard, her throat dry. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a barely audible voice, she whispered, "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to hurt her." Daniels leaned in slightly, encouraging her to continue. "I was stressed, overwhelmed," Claire confessed, tears welling in her eyes. Her crying wouldn't stop. "I got frustrated, and then I lost control." The words were a confession, but Daniels could tell there was more. "Did anyone else know about this? Has this happened before?" Claire shook her head quickly. "No, no one. It was the first time. I swear." Outside the interrogation room, the prosecutor prepared to bring these new revelations before the judge. The courtroom was packed once again, with reporters and spectators eager for updates. Sarah sat in the front row, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her heart was a mix of relief that the truth was coming out and heartbreak for the pain her daughter had endured. The judge called the court to order and addressed the room solemnly. "We are now treating this case as a matter of child abuse. The safety and well-being of Lily are paramount." The prosecutor stood and presented the evidence gathered so far: the bruises documented by the medical team, the psychologist's testimony, and now Claire's partial confession. The defense attorney for Claire tried to mitigate the damage. "Your Honor, Ms. Claire is deeply remorseful. She acted under extreme stress and never intended to harm the child. But the judge was clear. Intent does not excuse harm, especially to a vulnerable child. We must ensure Lily's protection. Officer Daniels brought Titan forward, explaining the dog's role in sensing Claire's anxiety and alerting the court to the seriousness of the situation. The jury listened intently as Dr. Carter described the psychological impact of abuse on young children, emphasizing the urgency of intervention. Sarah felt a weight of gratitude for everyone involved: Titan, Officer Daniels, Dr. Carter, who had helped bring her daughter's suffering into the light. During the proceedings, Lily remained close to her mother, sometimes clutching Sarah's hand, sometimes resting her head against her shoulder. Though scared, she seemed comforted by the growing circle of care around her. Outside, reporters whispered about the unusual courtroom drama, a toddler's brave words, a police dog's silent alert, and the unraveling of a dark secret. For Sarah, this was only the beginning. She knew the road to healing would be long and painful, but with each step, she was determined to protect Lily, to rebuild trust, and to find justice. As the court session ended for the day, Officer Daniels knelt beside Lily. "You did a great job today," he said softly. "You're very brave." Lily smiled faintly, squeezing her mother's hand. The courtroom's quiet had been shattered by a toddler's 2 words and a dog's keen instincts. Now the truth was out, and the fight to keep Lily safe had begun in earnest. The days following the courtroom revelations were filled with a whirlwind of activity: interviews, investigations, and medical appointments. Yet beneath the surface of legal proceedings, Sarah faced the invisible battle of helping Lily begin to heal from the trauma she had endured. The bruises on Lily's small arms and legs were fading, but the scars inside her were far less visible. At home, she was quieter than usual. The toddler who once ran freely and laughed without care now clung tightly to her mother, afraid of shadows and sudden noises. Sarah found herself watching Lily constantly, terrified to leave her alone even for a moment. The babysitter was gone, but the damage lingered. "Mommy, bad man," Lily would say sometimes, her voice trembling. It was a reminder that the pain was not just physical, it was woven into her little mind and heart. To help, Sarah arranged more sessions with Dr. Emily Carter. Each visit was a delicate dance, coaxing Lily out of her silence, helping her express feelings she couldn't yet understand. They used drawings, soft toys, and simple stories to help her feel safe. Dr. Carter explained to Sarah, children process trauma in their own time. Lily is brave, but healing will take patience and love. Officer Daniels remained a steady presence too. He often visited, bringing Titan along. The dog's calm demeanor seemed to soothe Lily, and she would reach out hesitantly to pet him. Titan was more than a police dog now. He was a symbol of safety. Meanwhile, Claire awaited the legal consequences of her actions. The court was preparing for a formal hearing, and the community buzzed with a mix of outrage and sympathy. Many struggled to reconcile the image of a babysitter with the reality of abuse. During the hearing, Claire's defense painted a picture of someone overwhelmed by stress, pleading for leniency. But the prosecutor was unyielding. Regardless of intent, this child suffered, they argued. We must send a clear message that such behavior will not be tolerated. The judge ultimately sentenced Claire to a rehabilitation program focused on anger management and parenting education alongside supervised probation. It was a decision that stirred mixed emotions. Some believed it was too lenient, others hoped it would prevent further harm. For Sarah, the sentence was secondary to her daughter's recovery. Each day was about rebuilding trust. Lily's smiles returned slowly, often sparked by small moments. A gentle touch from her mother, a game with Titan, a sunny afternoon in the park. Yet there were setbacks. Nightmares haunted Lily's sleep, and some days she would withdraw into herself. Sarah learned to recognize the signs and hold her close through the storms. Through it all, the courtroom drama that had once seemed so distant now felt deeply personal. The bravery of a 3-year-old and the instincts of a police dog had stopped a terrible secret from continuing in silence. But the healing, Sarah knew, was just beginning. In quiet moments, she whispered to Lily, "You are safe now. Mommy will protect you forever." Lily's small hand would reach up, gripping hers tightly, a fragile but powerful bond that neither time nor trauma could break. As weeks turned into months, Sarah and Lily began navigating the difficult path from trauma to healing. Each day brought small victories and occasional setbacks, but the love between mother and daughter grew stronger with every step. Lily's timid smile started to return. She learned to trust again, not just her mother, but the world around her. The once terrifying shadows in her bedroom were replaced by the soft glow of a nightlight, and bedtime stories became a cherished ritual that helped soothe her restless mind. Dr. Emily Carter continued her therapy sessions, using creative techniques tailored for a child Lily's age. They drew pictures together, with Lily's crayon strokes telling stories of hope and safety. Slowly, she learned to express her fears and feelings in ways words couldn't capture. One afternoon, Sarah watched as Lily played with Titan in the backyard. The police dog had become a constant companion, a gentle guardian who seemed to sense Lily's emotions without words. Lily giggled as Titan wagged his tail, chasing after a ball. It was a moment of pure joy, a stark contrast to the fear that had once gripped her tiny heart. Officer Daniels visited regularly, checking in on their progress. His presence was a reminder of the day justice had been set in motion and how the unlikely team of a toddler and a police dog had changed their lives forever. But healing wasn't a straight line. There were days when Lily retreated into silence, her eyes clouded with worry. Sarah learned to be patient, offering quiet comfort rather than pressing for answers. She knew recovery would take time. At the courthouse, the case against Claire moved forward. The community remained divided. Some people believed Claire deserved a second chance. Others thought justice hadn't been fully served. Sarah focused on what mattered most, Lily's well-being. One day, Sarah received a call from the social worker assigned to their family. They wanted to discuss a long-term safety plan and support services to ensure Lily's continued protection and growth. It was a sign that the legal battle might finally be shifting toward restoration. During a meeting, the social worker praised Sarah's dedication. "You're doing an incredible job, Sarah. Your love and vigilance are the strongest foundation Lily could have." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I just want her to feel safe and happy again," she said softly. The social worker nodded, "And she will, with time, care, and support." In the evenings, Sarah and Lily developed new routines filled with laughter and warmth. Cooking simple meals, reading picture books, and even quiet moments of drawing became their new normal. One evening, as Lily snuggled under a blanket with Titan curled at her feet, Sarah whispered, "You're my brave girl." Lily looked up and smiled shyly. "I love you, Mommy." The words were a balm to Sarah's soul, a promise of resilience and hope despite everything they had faced. The story that had begun with fear and silence was now unfolding into one of courage and healing. Thanks to a toddler's courage, a police dog's instincts, and a mother's unwavering love, a family was beginning to reclaim their future. The day of the final hearing arrived with a mixture of anticipation and solemnity. Months had passed since Lily's brave words echoed through the courtroom, and now the time had come for the judge to deliver a verdict on the custody and protection of the child. Sarah sat at the front, holding Lily's hand tightly. Lily, now a bit stronger and more confident, clung to her mother but looked around with curious eyes. The courtroom was filled with people who had followed their story. The officers, the medical professionals, the child psychologist, and even Titan, who sat loyally beside Officer Daniels. The judge called the court to order, his voice steady and serious. After reviewing all evidence and testimonies, this court finds that the child's safety is of paramount importance. Therefore, custody shall remain with her mother, Sarah, with full support from Child Protective Services and medical professionals. A collective sigh of relief rippled through the room. Sarah felt tears well up, but this time they were tears of hope and gratitude. The judge continued, "The court also orders continued supervision and support to ensure Lily's ongoing well-being. The babysitter, Claire, will undergo rehabilitation and is prohibited from any contact with the child. Officer Daniels nodded, a sense of closure settling over him. Justice has been served, he said softly to Sarah as he knelt beside Lily, offering a reassuring smile. Lily reached out tentatively and petted Titan's nose. The dog responded with a gentle lick, as if recognizing the bond they all shared. A bond forged through bravery, truth, and protection. As the court adjourned, Sarah gathered Lily in her arms. "We're going home, baby," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked questions, but Sarah only had eyes for her daughter. She wanted Lily to feel safe, loved, and free from the shadows of the past. In the weeks that followed, life began to settle into a new rhythm. With therapy, love, and the unwavering support of friends and professionals, Lily continued to grow stronger. Sarah enrolled her in preschool, where she made new friends and learned to laugh freely again. Titan became a fixture in their lives, often visiting during therapy sessions and family outings. His presence was a living reminder of the day a dog's instincts and a toddler's courage changed everything. Sarah also found strength in advocacy. She began speaking publicly about child safety and the importance of listening to children, determined to prevent other families from experiencing what Hertz had endured. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah watched Lily play in the yard with Titan. The little girl's laughter rang out, pure and joyful, a sound Sarah had feared she might never hear again. She whispered a heartfelt thanks to the universe for the chain of events that had led to this moment. For the police dog who sensed danger, for the brave words of a 3-year-old, and for the relentless pursuit of justice. Most of all, she was thankful for the unbreakable bond between mother and daughter, a bond that no darkness could extinguish. The story that began with fear and silence had become one of hope and resilience. And as they moved forward, Sarah knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger, braver, and forever united.